So hello, very warm welcome to my channel, Retro Computing Reboot. I'm Simon, and if you were the one person who watched my previous video, then a particularly warm welcome to you. Today I wanted to do a video for you. My Atari STE. What I've done is I've done what a lot of others have done, and I've converted, done a little bit of a modification with the machine so that it will boot from the external drive rather from the default internal drive. And for those of you not in the know, what that means is it will allow you to play games on the external drive, as by default I'm led to believe most games will don't like to boot from drive when you can't run them. So this is a bit of a workaround for that. I'll show you the end result, and then I'll go back and show you what I've done to get there. So you'll get an idea straight away whether this video is something for you or not. So without further ado, I'll show you the system working now, and then I'll dismantle the machine and show you exactly what it is that I've done to get here, and hopefully you'll like that. So this is my beloved Atari 1040 STE, which I purchased off eBay a while back. As you'll see, the original drive is still present, which we'll boot off in a minute. We also have the obligatory GoTech as an external drive. Still to get a case for it, but working on it. And then at the back of the machine, a bit difficult for me to see, excuse all the wires, you'll see we've got a little toggle switch just down here, which selects the boot drive, whether it's external or internal that it's booting from. So excuse me for being handheld, but we'll bob a disc in, bubble in the internal floppy drive. I'll just throw the switch across so it's booting from the internal, and let's set it going. Drive activity light. Fabulous. There it is. So that's all working great. What I'll do now is I won't leave you to suffer me watching play Bubble Bobble. I'll throw the switch at the back. Notice that the drive light's now gone off, and I'll just hit the reset switch. Reboot the Atari, and hopefully now we're already booting. There we go, under RVF. I do love the little clicks of the GoTech. I know it doesn't replicate the noise of the original floppy drive, but it's nice just to have that clicking away of the drive. I like that. Some of you may not, of course. but I think it's quite good. Check the game's ready. Not sure I like those little stickers. I might take those off. Fairly obvious what the buttons do. A bit skew whiff as well. Right, I think we're into the game. It's been cracked, so I can just click through. Let's just do something. Yeah, super. And let's just go a quick test race. Oh, there we go. Fond memories of playing Honda RVF as a kid on my 520 ST FM. Quite hard playing one-handed. We fell off. Okay, so bear with me 1 second. Let's move on and have a look at how I achieved this and see what you guys think of it. Right, so there's the Atari again. I appreciate that most of you probably know how to open the machine up, but for those of you who don't, I'll include that in the video, and for those of you who do, you can just skip over it. So, hopefully on your machine you'll have a number of screws on the back with the square holes. One. Come out. Wait that for a minute. Two. One over here. There we go. Spin it round. And we've got a few at the front. Sadly on mine, one of the bits of grill's been broken off. I'm not too bothered about that though, because you'll never see that and it doesn't affect its performance or anything. Right, another one in this corner. It's come. There it comes. Right, move the screws to one side, don't lose them. You may notice there's some more screw holes here, and we'll come back to these in a second. 1, 2, 3. These are what secure the floppy drive into place. And whilst they're easy to take off, putting them back together, from my experience, is somewhat tricky to get everything lined up. Right, so the cover just lifting from the left as the machine faces you, and then just ease it over the floppy drive and move it to one side. And fortunately the standoffs on this one are in pretty good condition, but you see these, the plastic ages, and becomes more and more brittle, and these standoffs are very easy to break. And I say that from experience. So when it comes to putting it back together, my advice would be don't over tighten them. It's just literally finger tight and a twist. So as you should be able to see there's a switch that I fitted at the back. dual pole, dual throw switch, and a little wire disappearing off under there. So let's keep stripping her down. Get the keyboard out of the way, which is relatively easy. Just lifts out. A little connector which just unplugs. You can't get it the wrong way around because it will only go one way. One of the pinholes being blanked off, so you can't refit it the wrong way around. One thing that does go wrong with these, from my experience, is the LEDs. But this one, it's come to me and it's all working. On most of the other STs that I've had, keyboard needs a bit of clean. But most of the other STs I've had, it's either had the hard drive LED or the power LED not working, which isn't the end of the world. I did manage to source some replacement LEDs and replace them, and perhaps I'll do another video in future in relation to how best to do it, or at least how best I did it. Notice there's quite a bit of corrosion on this this shield for the floppy drive. I don't know why that's the case. I can only presume that at some point somebody spilled liquid inside and caused it to rust. I could probably do a better job of cleaning it up, to be honest, but I'm not too concerned at this time. We'll just move that to one side. You may be able to see now this wire for my switch. It just comes over, goes through the shield for the floppy drive, and then plugs into a little PCB down there that I've cobbled together. What I'll do is I'll just get the floppy drive out, which won't be very good on camera, so apologies for that. I don't know how else I'd do this with a good view for you, but I'm just holding the machine gingerly and just removing these 3 screws holding in the floppy. Then once we've got the floppy drive out, we'll be able to have a bit better look as to what I've done inside. One more. And when you do this, you'll probably find one or more of the standoffs come and fall away, which appeared there, which I'll have to retrieve out of the machine in a little while. I'll just unplug the floppy drive, power connection there, and then the IDC 34 pin over here. My advice would be to be gentle with it, as I have had the backs pull off these before, being a little bit rough with them. Right, that's the floppy drive out of the way. So if I move that cable, move the floppy cable out of the way. Yeah, the brass standoffs disappeared somewhere inside the machine, so I'll have to recover that in a little bit. What you should be able to see is this is the bit that I've added in. Obviously it's one where they've got the switch plugged into, which I'll just disconnect for now, just so I can remove that RF shield, just to make things a little bit less cluttered. What I'll do is, I won't do this on camera, just because I think it's really quite boring. But there's a number of tabs going around, little metal tabs that just need twisting so that the top of the tabs go through the holes. And then it's a case of just removing it. And there's the top RF shield as well over the power supply. But once again, we've got 1, 2, another screw down there, and possibly one at the back. No, not one at the back. 1, 2, 3, 4 screws, and then this cover comes off as well. So I'll pause the video, and then when we resume. So I'm just resuming the video here with the shield removed from the power supply. I'm no expert with electricity. my advice would be just be very careful about what you're touching here. We've got some capacitors which potentially hold charge for a while. Don't go poking around unless you know what you're doing. Otherwise you might get a shock off it. No, I wouldn't want that. So do it at your own risk. But what I'm going to do is before I take the motherboard out, I'm just going to remove this switch. So apologies for my arm getting in the way. I'll just bob this switch out of the way. Should hopefully come out. And the ring on the back is fighting me. It certainly is. Let's move this forward to give myself a bit of access. So just the retaining ring on the back. That's the switch out of the way, which we'll come back to. Okay. Well, then what I'll do is I'll bob the whole motherboard power supply out in one go, because what you will find is removing the power supply, which you need to do to remove the RF shield, is quite awkward if you do it inside the case, and that's why you see a lot of videos with people struggling, because the idea would be 2 screws down there which secure the power supply to the case, the screws along the front here, 1, 2, 3. I haven't got one there, you may have, so there may be an additional screw there for you, but certainly the 2 for the power supply and the ones across the front. Once you've removed those, the whole motherboard, backplate and RF shield will all come out with the power supply all in one go. So might be worth bearing that in mind. So lifting the power supply out, then it's just a case of unplugging the connector, just the one connector, and it should just lift out nice and easily, which it does. No struggling. If it's still inside the case, the bottom half of the case, you will struggle. You will struggle. That is experience speaking. So if I just straighten these tabs out, so that's 2 down the right hand side. 1, 2, 3 on top, 1 more in the corner, and then you find these are also a lot easier to get to when it's not in the bottom half of the case. I think I may have got them all. A bit of gentle persuasion. Which one's sticking? There we go. I think we're free. Fabulous. Fabulous. So if we wanted to go all the way, the motherboard sits on another tray with a piece of cardboard between as an insulator. I do like the STE. I never had one of these. I had, I think I mentioned the 520 ST-FM for floppy disk and modulator, the FM bit, and 520k of memory. I don't know what these modules are, and from my understanding is the modules are meant to be the same size for them to work properly. And I haven't got around to running any software that will actually tell me how much is in the machine. So perhaps that'll be another video at some point, but clearly we've got 2 pairs of 2, and each pair is completely different to the other, so that might be something to look at a later date. But anyway, the purpose of this video was looking at what I've done, and that's just been pushed down there. I don't know if that was me being not too careful assembling it, or whether that's whether I've done that disassembling the case. So this is it in essence. We have the switch that I had disconnected, which just plugs on. Can't go the wrong way around. Only goes one way. We've got the switch that plugs onto the little PCB that I did. Toggle switch which selects between external and internal. We've got that. We've got the chip on top, which just comes straight off the motherboard. It's the Yamaha chip, which pins 19 and 20 control the drive selector, selects between which tells it which is the external drive and which is the internal drive. So all this switch does is just swaps those signals around. So in one position it thinks that it's connected the internal drive on 19, and then swap it around and vice versa, or whatever the pins exact pins are used for 19 and 20. Don't quote me. All I know is that swapping them round makes it think it goes from one drive to the other. I'll unplug the. I'll take the PCB off. You can see what I've done. So all I've done is I've taken the motherboard out and I've desoldered this Yamaha chip. I have to get my 1 second while I get my glasses, my magnifiers. So this is the Yamaha Yankee Mike 2149 Foxtrot. So YM 2149 Foxtrot. And this would normally sit on the motherboard. Obviously it's soldered to the board. I've had to desolder it, removed the chip, and from there fitted a socket, making sure that obviously the orientations are correct in line with the motherboard. The dimples at the right hand side on my board, I can't comment on other people's revisions or different models of ST, but mine it's off to the right hand side. So it's a case of desoldering the Yamaha, fitting a socket, and then just carefully fitting this PCB in. I should be careful doing it because I don't want to bend any pins. And once it's lined up, just gently push it into place like that. And it really is that straightforward. The PCB, don't know anything about electronics, but I thought, how complicated can it be? So I got myself some PCB designing software. I can't remember what it was I used, but it was one of the first hits on the internet. Designed myself a PCB, which took pins 19 and 20 to one of these pins on here, which then goes to the switch. The switch is sort of like a flip-flop switch. It's what they call it. The setup is a dual pole, dual throw. So the signal comes in from 19 and 20 on the middle two, and then its output on I think I set it up to come out on this one, and then there's a crisscross on the switch itself. So the two return signals then come back and then go to the chip, which is now mounted on a socket on the little PCB. That in essence is it. the reason I wanted to do it like this was because I'd seen other people and they've done it slightly different to me, but same idea. I wanted mine to be nice and neat, as neat as possible. I've bought previous STs off eBay and it's just sort of like a rat's nest of wires inside, which for me, I hate. It's not for me. I want it to look nice inside. If nothing more, so that it's easy for me to work on when I go back in. If I want to put this machine back to stock at any time, I can do. I can just take this PCB out. Okay, I've got a hole in the back of my in the case, but it's not the end of the world. Whereas if I'm bending chip legs, cutting them, all the rest of it, for me, that's not the right thing for me. So I can bob this PCB out, I can put the chip back on the motherboard and it's back to factory. So if I have any problems in the future and I'm troubleshooting, trying to eliminate problems, then I can bring it back to how it was pretty quickly. Word of caution though, desoldering a 40-pin chip such as this Yamaha, that was really tricky. I'm not an expert in any way, shape or form. I'll recover that whilst I remember. It just goes on there. I'm not an expert when it comes to soldering, desoldering. I've got a soldering station. I've got a solder sucker, a little plunger type, and it just took me forever to do it. And when I finally got it, I lifted one of the traces, which I had a bit of a panic about. Managed to sort it out in the end, cutting the trace back and putting a little bit of wire onto the board, and then put the coating on top, and so on and so forth. Loads of videos on YouTube about doing that. I don't have a video of me giving myself that heart attack, but yeah, my advice would be really careful, be really patient. Don't try and force the chip off before it's ready to go, because I think really that's what I did, and that's what lifted the trace. There was one leg that was just stuck, it wasn't ready to go yet, and I've just put a little bit too much force on the chip and it's come away, but it's lifted the trace with it as well, so be mindful of that. What I would really like in the future is to get myself a desolder station where it's got the pump and it's constantly sucking away at the solder. I think that'd be great. But it can be done. It can be done. All I would say is be patient, give it time, and then you can have less problems in the long run. Hope you like that. Bit of Columbo-esque video. We've got the finished article and then we've gone back to how it was. If you're interested in the PCB, do get in touch. I can send you the schematics. I've got some spare ones. We can always sort something out. No problem there whatsoever. I'm an enthusiast, therefore other people are an enthusiast. If you happen to like it, fantastic. I'll do whatever I can to help you. So I think that's the end of the video. If you've got any questions, please do ask. That is if anybody watches this video. But for those of you that have done, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've got something out of it, and I hope you'll stick around and watch some of the other things that I've got in the pipeline, which I tell you now, but I can't think. Lots of BBC work that I've done, lots of Atari work that I've done, lots of Amiga work that I've done. There's lots of retrobrighting that I've done. So whatever my next video is, it's going to be something Amiga, ST, BBC related, disk drive related. But yeah, if there's something that you think I'd like to see, please do leave me a message, and I will do my very best to get you a video with what you'd like to see. Thank you for watching. If you have liked this, please do subscribe. I would love more people to get the opportunity to see what I do and hopefully get something from it. Thank you again, and hopefully see you in my next video.